Perpetuating victimhood, especially when it's false, is not a great advertisement for leadership. Kamala Harris's new memoir of the 24 election is called 107 Days, but it should have been called Everyone Sucks But Me. Look, ladies, I know this isn't fair, but we're all always running against the worst cliche of who people think we are. Women Democrats can't look oversensitive or preachy or unable to laugh at themselves. They also can't look silly, like Gretchen Whitmer did, trying to hide in the Oval Office. They have to look brave and strong.
Bill Maher is scorching Democratic Party leaders for abandoning their basic mission, inspiring voters and winning elections. He argues the leadership fixates on side issues while ignoring obvious, urgent realities. On his political show, Maher openly vented his frustration, calling out misplaced priorities, weak messaging, and tone-deaf strategy that leave the party drifting, divided, and failing to connect with the voters it needs most.
There's no argument here. There's just the sugar rush that the no-contact people get from never coming in second in a I hate Trump the most contest. Really? That's your strategy, to go full high school and tell the guy with all the power he can't sit with you at the lunch table? To borrow a phrase familiar to HBO viewers, you are not serious people. I mean, what exactly is the argument? That by talking to Trump, I'll elevate him? Oh my God, don't tell me he could become president. Well, I guess Ma'am Donnie is going to elevate Trump because he went to the White House today, and look who's getting along now.
So the Democratic Party has effectively embraced an unwritten rule: refuse to engage with Donald Trump or anyone who supported him. Bill Maher calls this approach ridiculous and exposes it without restraint. He argues that politics is not a social media feed where you can block half the country and still expect to win. Elections are not won by silence, avoidance, or moral grandstanding. Movements grow through persuasion, dialogue, and engagement, not by retreating into ideological echo chambers. Maher insists this strategy is not principled courage but political immaturity. Ignoring voters who disagree does not erase their influence. It only ensures they will never hear your message. While Democrats focus on purity tests and symbolic virtue, Republicans continue campaigning, listening, and expanding their coalition. Maher warns that what party activists label as moral superiority often feels like arrogance to everyday voters. If Democrats genuinely want to regain national power, they must stop treating disagreement as personal betrayal. Democracy requires representation, not affection. Representation demands engagement, listening, persuasion, patience, humility, and dialogue.
I was at the White House this week. Biden thought he could cut him off, but a year later he found out he couldn't. There's no perfect way to deal with Trump, but not engaging is for sure nothing. Axios wrote a column in August entitled 11 Ways to Influence Trump, based on many interviews with people who have done that. Number 8, get face-to-face. The trick is getting in the room, away from cameras and social media. Trump will say or write horrible things, but rarely in person, one-on-one, where he comes off kinder, more interested, less erratic. Exactly. And there's a bunch of examples of this, most recently the CEO of Intel, who Trump was hating on, but then he met in person and now he's a great guy.
Maher emphasizes a hard truth many Democrats avoid. Ignoring Trump and his supporters doesn't weaken them, it strengthens them. Each refusal to engage only fuels that movement, making it louder, wider, and more energized. Ma argues that silence is not moral high ground but a serious political failure. When a party stops talking to those who disagree, it doesn't persuade anyone. It simply gives them up. Democracy, he reminds, survives on debate and persuasion, not isolation. Shutting out opposing views deepens resentment and drives undecided voters even farther away. Rather than broadening its coalition, the party narrows it, locking itself into an ideological echo chamber where disagreement is treated as betrayal. Ma warns this approach doesn't just push away conservatives. It also alienates moderates, independents, and working-class voters who once formed the party's core. The end result is a movement that feels less welcoming, more hostile, and increasingly detached from everyday Americans. In chasing moral purity, Democrats risk drifting into political irrelevance.
Trump was gonna send the National Guard to San Francisco, but somebody talked him out of that. Kim Kardashian, for fuck's sake, convinced him to sign legislation. Don't you get it? Do you really not get it at this point? Everything with him is done through personal relationships. He's a people guy. Trust me, he's not at home at night poring over the briefing books. This is government by people is saying. If anything, we need more people like me having dinner with him. You complain he's surrounded by ass-kissers, but your strategy is to make sure no one but ass-kissers are around him? You are not serious people.
Donna Brazil sits watching in real time as Maher unloads his critique of DNC leadership, and his message is hard to dismiss. He argues that confronting Trump and the MAGA movement doesn't happen through boycotts, insults, or moral posturing, but through direct conversation. You don't weaken a political force by pretending it doesn't exist. You weaken it by engaging the people who support it. Maher stresses that real political change is built on personal relationships, not online outrage or ideological exile. Progress happens face to face, not through cancellation or silence. When a party chooses to shut out voters who disagree, it doesn't look principled, it looks fearful. Pushing people away only hardens divisions and strengthens opposition. Maher's message is blunt and clear. If Democrats want to win again, they must stop talking about Trump voters and start talking to them. Dialogue isn't surrender, it's a strategy for victory.
Perpetuating victimhood, especially when it's false, is not a great advertisement for leadership. Kamala Harris's new memoir of the 24 election is called 107 Days, but it should have been called Everyone Sucks But Me.
Maher then underscores another major reason DNC leadership is failing the very voters it claims to serve: a total refusal to accept responsibility for electoral defeat. Rather than engaging in honest self-reflection, party leaders default to blame shifting. One after another, high-profile Democrats point fingers at everyone except themselves. From Kamala Harris to AOC to Bernie Sanders, the explanations constantly change. Voters were uninformed. The media was unfair. The messaging wasn't progressive enough, or the country simply didn't understand. Maher argues this deep avoidance of accountability is exactly why the party keeps making the same mistakes over and over. Losing an election should spark serious introspection, not denial or excuse-making. Without admitting where strategy failed, leadership misjudged reality, or messaging pushed voters away, nothing can improve. Ma warns that a party unwilling to acknowledge its own errors becomes incapable of learning or growth. Accountability, he stresses, is not a sign of weakness. It is the foundation of credibility. Until Democrats stop blaming the electorate and start examining themselves, Ma believes the DNC will continue drifting further away from the people it claims to represent.
107 days is a victim's title because, get it, she only had 107 days to win. Yeah, and $1.5 billion, and a built-in army of about 75 million people who'd vote for any human-adjacent life form that wasn't Trump. But in 107 days, nothing is ever Kamala's fault. Biden lets her down by not stepping down sooner. Pouty face emoji.
Kamala Harris ultimately turned on the very person who gave her a powerful national platform. Consider the reality. President Biden had many choices. He could have selected Gavin Newsom, Pete Buttigieg, or even AOC. Instead, he chose Kamala Harris, lifting her from the Senate to the vice presidency and placing her at the heart of national politics. That single decision reshaped her career overnight. Yet after the election loss, Biden is now being portrayed as the reason she failed. Maher challenges the logic of that claim. How does blaming the man who handed you the biggest opportunity of your political life help the party move forward? Rather than confronting strategic errors, messaging failures, or voter disconnects, responsibility is pushed upward. Ma argues this instinctive blame game corrodes party unity and weakens credibility with voters. Progress, he says, doesn't come from rewriting history or scapegoating allies. It comes from honesty, accountability, and learning from defeat, none of which are possible when leadership refuses to own its mistakes.
Gavin Newsom, he was asked for his endorsement, but texted, "Hiking, we'll call back." But then never did. And then he didn't even ask her to prom. America itself lets Kamala down by not being ready for the running mate she really wanted, Pete Buttigieg. So she's stuck with the Home Depot paint salesman. And the rest is herstory. Pork.
According to Maher, Kamala Harris didn't stop with blaming Biden. She expanded the list of targets. She reportedly faulted Gavin Newsom for declining to endorse her presidential bid, as if an endorsement from California's governor would have guaranteed a path to the White House. Maher calls this thinking detached from political reality. Endorsements don't win elections, voters do. But the blame didn't stop there. Even the public was implicated. Harris allegedly implied she would have preferred Pete Buttigieg, but claimed the country simply wasn't ready for him. To Maher, that excuse perfectly illustrates the party's deeper problem. When politicians lose, instead of examining their own failures, they decide the voters are at fault. Maher argues this mindset is politically self-destructive, suggesting Americans are too ignorant, biased, or unprepared to choose correctly only breeds resentment. You can't rebuild support by talking down to voters, and you can't effectively lead a nation you refuse to understand or respect.
Here she lost. An aide peeled the words "Madam President" off the cupcakes before handing them out. Oh, geez, that's like a scene from Bridget Jones Runs for President, for Christ's sake.
Kamala Harris reportedly went so far as to blame her own staff and volunteers for the loss, a claim that sounds absurd but, according to Maher, is accurate. Rather than accepting responsibility, nearly everyone became a target. Campaign aides, organizers, and messaging teams were all turned into convenient scapegoats once the results were in. What Harris appears to overlook, Maher argues, is that leadership means ownership. Critics note that she embraced highly ideological positions that failed to resonate with broad segments of voters. Her messaging often missed working-class Americans and moderates, many of whom felt lectured rather than engaged. She routinely avoided tough questions, sidestepped unscripted moments, and relied on rehearsed talking points that felt empty. Maher insists these problems weren't staff errors, they were candidate failures. Campaigns don't collapse because volunteers knock on the wrong doors. They fail when voters don't believe the message or trust the messenger. Until that truth is acknowledged, Maher warns, the party will keep confusing accountability with betrayal and keep losing because of it.
Ladies, I know this isn't fair, but we're all always running against the worst cliche of who people think we are. Women Democrats can't look oversensitive or preachy or unable to laugh at themselves. They also can't look silly, like Gretchen Whitmer did, trying to hide in the Oval Office. They have to look brave and strong. It wasn't a good look for the woman party that all the guys were speaking out for Jimmy Kimmel when Trump went after him, except on the Woman Show, where for 5 days the outspoken hosts were suddenly as quiet as a geisha.
Maher then turned his attention to The View, criticizing the panel for their silence at a time when strong voices were needed most. He accused the hosts of passivity, arguing that these influential media figures failed to speak up when it mattered. Maher highlighted the controversy involving Jimmy Kimmel, noting that the women on the show remained quiet while the comedian faced cancellation. In his view, they did not defend free speech or challenge what many saw as unfair treatment. Their silence, he argued, was revealing. They only spoke out after it became clear that Kimmel's suspension would be temporary and the public backlash had cooled. To Maher, this behavior illustrates a broader issue in media and politics, decisions driven by fear and self-preservation rather than principle. Speaking out only when it is safe or socially acceptable does nothing to promote justice, truth, or integrity. True influence, he insists, requires courage, not caution. Remaining passive during controversy erodes credibility and weakens impact. Maher then linked this criticism to the Democratic Party as a whole, delivering a blunt and uncompromising message. He argues the party is failing because it avoids accountability, alienates voters, and blames everyone except itself. From Kamala Harris shifting responsibility onto Biden, campaign staff, party officials, and even the American electorate, to leaders who ignore or dismiss Trump supporters entirely, the party is trapped in its own ideological echo chamber. Maher warns that progress does not come from moral posturing, silence, or symbolic outrage. Instead, it comes from dialogue, personal relationships, persuasion, and honest self-reflection. Until Democrats confront their own mistakes, engage with voters they disagree with, and speak out courageously when it truly matters, they risk continued irrelevance. A party that refuses to listen cannot lead, and one that avoids hard truths cannot win. With that, the video ends. If you found this discussion valuable, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more analysis in the next video.